Hello everyone, I'm Tyler Rosado, and this is the DIVA Checkpoint. This is your go-to stop for bold insights, big vision, and real action from leaders across Circle K International. Each episode, my guests and I unpack what's happening, what's next, and how we're showing up to lead, with plenty of fun and maybe a little drama along the way. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the DIVA Checkpoint Podcast Season 2. I hope you are doing well and excited to explore more district insight, vision, and action here on the pod. This week is extra special because we are joined by Neha Pasupuleti. Neha is the current International Vice President of Circle K International. Her home club is at the Ohio State University CKI, where she has previously served as Club Events Chair and the 2024-2025 Distinguished Ohio District Governor. A proud Kiwanis family alum, Neha began her service journey in Builders Club and Key Club, where she served on the district board for 2 years before continuing her leadership in CKI. At Ohio State, Neha is a third year studying business operations management with minors in global public health and the Dean's Leadership Academy. Last summer, she interned with a managed care organization in their clinical operations department, sparking her passion for pursuing a career in nonprofit healthcare management. Outside of academics and service, Neha enjoys staying active, crocheting, and traveling to explore new cultures and communities. She is energized by opportunities to build inclusive systems, empower members, and strengthen CKI's global impact. It's always a special episode when you're joined by someone from the international level of the organization, and so I hope you get some unique insights and takeaways from today's episode. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Hello, Neha. Welcome to the DIVA Checkpoint Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, and I'm so glad that you could be on. And you mentioned a bit before we started recording that we're in the midst of your final season. So I really want to thank
Yes.
you for being on.
Oh, of
And
course.
yeah, and I think this is a perfect example diving into just kind of our first topic. You, for those who don't know, are the International Vice President of Circle K International.
Mhm.
Before we even really get into it, I would love for, our listeners that are just now discovering our organization, talk a little bit about your role and the board you serve on and all of those things.
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone. Like Tyler said, my name's Neha and I have the amazing opportunity to serve as the international vice president for this organization. Never would have imagined I would have been here. Like you would have talked to me a couple years ago, and I would like, oh, I think I'll just be a member. Just try to do local service. But I've really been able to find my voice within CKI, and I've really been able to really build on some of my passions within this organization. And that's why I decided to continue pursuing leadership and being able to kind of meet other folks and really build that sense of community within CKI. So initially, I started off in Builders Club actually in eighth grade. I was able to join because my mom needed something for me to do after school. She was like, "Neha, I can't keep like after school programs getting too expensive. Like you got to find a club or something to join." And so initially, I joined Builders Club because I thought it was a club where they would be building Legos. Like I thought that's what we were doing. And so I joined because I'm like, "Oh, I love Legos. Like let me get started with this." Quickly realized that's not what it's about. We were able to do a lot of good like in-house service projects. And the school I went to, it was a connected middle and high school. So we quite often partnered with the Key Club at my high school. And so I really got to see what that organization was all about. And so when I was joined high school, which was kind of the peak or like the starting point of the pandemic. So it was kind of a weird time to be doing school, but also student organizations when we were online. But my Key Club kept meeting and we kept kind of getting involved with that. And I was fortunate to, at the end of my term in Key Club, I got to serve on as a lieutenant governor and then as the district secretary treasurer within the Ohio district. And so through that, I had a lot of exposure to CKI. And that's why I was like, I'm planning on going to Ohio State. I know they have a really good club. Like, I think I'm just going to get involved and kind of do some more volunteering on campus. Then quickly became more involved with that. I was able to be a chair for our club, basically planning some of the events and things like that. And I knew I wanted to go for the district board. I knew I wanted to meet folks from other colleges, just because that was something that was so cool to me in Key Club was how interconnected we are as an organization. Um, and the current governor kind of pushed me to run for governor. And I was like, girl, I'm a freshman. Like, I don't think I'm ready for that. Like, who's gonna vote for me? Like I don't have any experience. Like all I can say is, oh, like I planned some events within my whole club. So I was really intimidated by that. And I was running against someone too. So I was like, how is this gonna work? Nobody's gonna vote for me. I'm gonna make a fool of myself. But I really built a campaign on, my perspective as a younger student, and especially one of someone who has seen Circle K kind of from the outside, and someone who's been able to like obviously be so inspired by college students who are continuing to serve and really just bringing in that new perspective was the highlight of my campaign. And I ended up getting it and had a very successful term. And then this past summer, at our international convention, I was able to run for vice president. And the people said, and this is where we're at. So it was a really cool experience. I love going to conventions. I feel like that's the highlight of our organization. And it's been so awesome. And through this role as vice president, I get to lead our committees. I also do a lot of kind of administrative functions within the organization and the board, like compiling the minutes and putting together these board books that are published on our websites, and all those good things. So it's really cool, and I love being able to kind of be able to hear about all the different parts of our organization, like from our trustees, from our governors, and also from our committees, where I get to work with members directly and help them kind of bring our board's vision to life. So it's an incredible opportunity, and I'm very excited and very fortunate to be in this position.
Yeah, of course. And, there's so much to go into. We'll get to everything, at least as much as
Mhm.
possible in like 40 minutes. But I want
Mhm.
to first stick with the vice president role because that
Mhm.
is actually the place that I think we've been able to connect. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there in Pittsburgh where you were elected, but we have
Mhm.
gotten to know each other through the
Mhm.
committees, which is something that your position oversees. And so, before we really dive into, the impact we've seen with the committees, talk a
Mhm.
little bit about our international committee system and what someone could expect if they're sitting on a committee.
Yeah, of course. So part of my role is to kind of develop those committees, and I can see a lot of freedom and honestly, not a lot of structure of what these committees could look like. I was really referencing what our previous vice president had kind of put together, and then working with President Jonathan and some of our trustees, we kind of had to make a plan of, okay, we have these goals, we have this vision of what we want CKI to look like. How are we going to get there? And so that's kind of where we came up with these five committees. I think last year was like four, so we were adding an extra one. And then we wanted to look at what are the different areas of our organization that we want to see growth and improvement on. And so that's kind of where we focused on. Okay, we obviously want folks to be planning our convention. We want to highlight that membership experience. What are some of the things beyond those, technical things that we have? And so that's kind of where we decided, okay, we really want to do more with our partners. So we created the service program and partner committee. We decided we really, like at this time, we really need to continue developing those Kiwanis family relations. So that's where we decided, okay, let's have a Kiwanis Family Relations Committee. And then finally, we realized that there was so much work to be done in terms of recognizing our members and providing that sort of like opportunity to kind of empower our members at the international level. And so we decided initially it was a combined committee of convention and awards. We decided to split those two up. And so now we have a dedicated awards and recognition committee. And I think all of those really highlight all the different areas of our organization that we really wanted to focus and improve on. And so, as the vice president, I got to kind of help create the application process and run those selections for all of the members who applied. And this it was an incredible application pool. Like, I think we had more than two-thirds of our districts had someone from their district apply for a committee and were selected. And I think it was about half of those were Key Club alumni. So you can really see like how we're able to continue to engage those members and especially how interested folks are into getting more involved with our organization. And I think that's really, really a testament to the growth we're seeing and everything with that. But it really just shows that people are ready and willing to step up and to, continue to get more involved. And I think especially for an international committee, it really takes a special person to be willing to step up to that because I feel like so much of the work is obviously happening virtually or online, and it's kind of hard to see that immediate benefit of it or see what that really turns into. But we know that through all of the programming that we're doing, all of the resources we're creating, all of these things are helping our clubs continue to be the best versions of themselves and continue to do more service in their community. So that's really what gets me going with these committees, and I've definitely been able to see the impact of that. You, Tyler, serve as our vice chair for the membership committee, and it's been incredible the work you guys have been able to put on. Like at the time of this recording, guys, we are just coming off the amazing win of the global membership rally, which was an incredible experience. experience. Like that event was planned so well, and we received so much good feedback from our members. So for those of you who haven't checked out, Tyler's leading that force, who's really putting together our monthly socials. And that was something we initially were like, okay, we want to do this. How are we going to do it? Because we were like, we need to find some way to continuously engage our members. What if we made the membership committee put together a social every month or something to get folks to meet people from outside of their own club or district? And you guys took that and did such an amazing job. And I'm so proud of the work that all of our committees have done. And it's been so incredible being able to watch that and really see how, from when I was just interviewing you all and like, oh yeah, like, hey, like, here's the committee. Like, what do you think about it? To now seeing that vision fully executed and obviously continuously being improved and everything is so amazing to see. And very proud of all of our members and the work that they've done on our committees.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, I can't take all the credit. Trustee Kelly does an amazing job working with
Hmm.
me to help lead the committee. And then, of course, all of our committee members,
Hmm.
they really are a great exemplar of what teamwork looks like,
Hmm.
especially remote
Yes.
teamwork.
Hmm.
They all are great at saying, this month I'm going to take charge because I know next month I
Hmm.
can't, or vice versa. And then
Hmm.
even then, they're like, how can I support you as you take charge?
Yes. Hmm.
I think it's really a great opportunity for people who can see themselves going into remote work, honestly, because
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
very much like there's still a lot of things we have to get done. It takes a lot of work to
For
get
sure.
these socials planned. So I think it's really great opportunity on that front. But then
Hmm.
even with our in-person international events or district-wide
Hmm.
events, I
Yeah.
think for, say, a governor's class or like our international board, we have a lot of opportunities to meet
Hmm.
in person, or at least more opportunities than the average member. And so
Hmm.
these socials and then these committees are a great way to demystify, I think, the
Hmm.
idea of interacting with people outside of
Right.
your home
Hmm.
club or outside of your district. And I think
Hmm.
that's been the really cool opportunity. Of course, these committees are part of your role, and part of your role as well as we've mentioned, we have the entire board and we have President Jonathan.
Hmm.
There's a lot of vision happening there, and so you really
Hmm.
have a lot of vision within your committees. But
Hmm.
then also Jonathan has his vision for the entire organization, and so I'd
Hmm.
love for you to talk a little bit about how you kind of balance those things, as you create your own vision but then also try to
Hmm.
support his at the same time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, one of the cool things with how our organization and like the board trainer and everything is Jonathan and I got to meet pretty often before, leading the board trainer. And so we really talked about, okay, what are the big priorities for us? We kind of looked at what do we both campaign on? What was our big, I guess like why, what future do we want to see for CKI? And so that's kind of where we started off. Obviously we did have differing visions and different priorities. And within both of our roles, there's different aspects of the organization that we both get to work on. And so I think being able to first sit down and see what are our both like ideas and then kind of putting those together was so important. And then once we kind of determined, okay, this is our big thing, these are the four priorities we want to get done this year. We really took it to the board and we said, here's what we want to do. Here's my ideas for some of the committees and the work that can help us get this done. And then we kind of had a good brainstorming session of, okay, so, and especially I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen on our website, we have a list of what the committees actually do in the form of directives. So you can see very actionable tasks that each committee is really working on. But in order to come up with those, we had a huge brainstorming session of, okay, what are the things that we really want to kind of highlight in each of these roles? And what are some of the things that we can directly see impact? Or what are some of those metrics or those numbers that we want to see? For example, with the socials, like, we're going to host these every month. What does engagement look like every single month? And what is our standard for how we're improving that and making that even better every single time? And so things like that, I think, are ways that we kind of combined our visions for the organization and kind of putting those two things together. Because obviously we both operate in different spheres, I guess. Like mine is, I think committees, we like to call it as the action behind what we set out to do when we were all elected. And so I think we both kind of have that mentality of, okay, these are the people that are going to get this done. And obviously, that's why we have our trustees serving as chairs so that they can help make sure that our vision continues to be part of everything that we're doing here. Yeah, I would say for the most part, we aligned pretty well on those in the beginning, but we continuously check in on the committees to make sure. I obviously check in with the vice chairs and chairs pretty regularly. I get to sit in on some of the meetings, and then being able to communicate that with our staff and the president, as well as our other trustees to kind of get their input is so important to make sure we're all aligned and making sure that everything is going well.
Absolutely. And kind of last point on the committees, because I know we have a lot to talk about, but
Hmm.
we also have tons of committees at district level and even at
Hmm.
club levels. And I think sometimes it's a mixed bag in terms of how
Hmm.
effective committees are for districts and clubs. So
Yeah.
if you were talking to, a group of governors or even a group of club
Hmm.
presidents, what is
Hmm.
the biggest piece of advice for overseeing committees in order to make them more effective for their goals?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point because, like I mentioned, sometimes it can seem like very overwhelming. I mentioned there's a lot of things that we want to get done, and those directives, won't happen overnight. So I definitely think the way like Jonathan and I approached this was not looking at the stuff or like the actions that we want to do, but starting off with what is our purpose? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And so I think starting off with that will really give a good sense of like, I guess, vision and idea of what are we trying to do, and then going through and finding, okay, well, how are we going to do it? Okay, we said, oh, we want to boost membership engagement by connecting members virtually or something. Well, how we're going to do that is by having a monthly social or having a global membership rally or offering resources for our new members to understand what is the organization and what can they do to stay involved. So I think first of all, for when you're setting up a committee, definitely starting off with what's the purpose of this? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And then kind of going through of, okay, here are the things that we want to get done. For example, when I was an events chair for my club, our goal was, okay, we see a lot of like membership engagement in the fall semester. How do we continue that in the spring semester? Because we tend to see like members kind of drip off, like they get busy with academics and things like that. So that was my job. So it was how do we boost that engagement through our events? And so that's kind of where I got to help plan out this. We call it service extravaganza, but it's basically like a weekend full of service to kind of bring everyone together. Say like, even if we haven't seen you all semester, like come to this, like it's going to be our most impactful service. We're going to be going directly to our partners and our nonprofits and doing some service with them. And so I think just knowing that that was the purpose of engaging members when maybe we haven't seen them in a while, and putting together an event that would help bring everyone together, not just for service, but also like for fellowship and being able to learn things and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say first off, starting with that, and then continuously reminding yourself of that purpose, I think will help because we're all students. We all are people too. Like we have so much going on in our lives. So just remembering that, I think will help us stay focused and remember that, we're doing this for a bigger cause, not just to check something off the box or get an event done and then move on to the next one. But I think that'll help with staying motivated. But yeah, I would say that would be my biggest piece of advice is kind of working backwards. Because I feel like so often it's so easy to just say, well, this is the event we put on last year. Let's just do it again and maybe change some things. But remembering why we're putting on the event and like what our whole purpose into that is really important there too.
Right, right. I think it's important to remember that part of the strength of the committee is that it's not just one person in the role. There's
Hmm.
multiple
Yes.
people,
Hmm.
and any given year you bring different
Hmm.
ideas to the table, and
Hmm.
it's a living kind of body of people that
Oh, for
know
sure.
when it's time to say goodbye to an old event
Hmm.
or the
Hmm.
things that we did like about an event that we can bring with
Yeah.
us into the future. So
Hmm.
I think that's really great advice.
Hmm.
Switching gears here, you're from the Ohio State University
Hmm.
CKI,
Oh, yes.
and
Use of the V.
I would love to hear about this signature project that you all do,
Hmm.
the Teeter Totter Marathon.
Yeah, I'd love to share. So our club has been around for so many years. I think it's definitely more than like 60 plus years. Like it's a very old club, and thankfully we've been able to kind of sustain that charter despite all the different challenges going on in the world since the past 60 years. But yeah, our club has 50 some years ago, some of the students there put together this project called the Teeter Totter Marathon. And it sounds like, oh, what does this even mean? But basically, it's literally what we do. So teeter totter is like a seesaw, like a little playground, little I don't know what you call it, but a little playground thing that you can kind of sit on and rock back and forth. And it's really fun because it's based off the other person, so you have to do it with somebody. You can't just teeter totter by yourself, which is why I love this project. But basically, it's literally what it says. We have teeter totters around campus, and the like marathon part is that the idea was initially to do it for 24 hours straight and raise as much money as we can by inviting folks to teeter totter with us. We kind of shifted that to be a two-part event. So we'd have it like Friday night, and then we'd have it during one of the big football games, like at our Kiwanis tailgate. And so now it's kind of two different days of teeter tottering, but the idea is the same to raise as much money as we can within that 24-hour period of when we start on Friday night to I guess, until kickoff of the game. And so the idea is that we're raising as much money as you can. And we do that by kind of inviting folks to sit on the teeter-totter. And one of our strategies is like once we get them on the teeter-totter and we're teeter-tottering, kind of tell them, oh, we're Circle K, we're fundraising for this organization. I think this past year we did it to one of our local shelters for like youth in the Columbus area. But it's an incredible project. It's very cool to see. Most of our Kiwanis Club that sponsors our Circle K Club were members of the Ohio State Circle K Club. So they were doing Teeter Totter Marathon when they were in college too. And it's so cool for them to like share some of their like tips and ideas. Like some of them are very, very extroverted. And, like we'll go up to people like, hey, like you see the seesaw? Like, do you want to get on? Like, or we'll like try to do like, oh, like I'm gonna be seesawing. Like, do you want to do it with me? And things like that. But it's the funniest thing ever because people are like, what is going on? Like, what is Circle K, the gas station? They're putting out seesaws on campus. And these seesaws are pretty like they're not the nicest thing in the world, so people are a little intimidated. But I think it's just the funnest thing ever, and people are always like laughing when they're on it because they're like, we haven't done this in so long. But I think this past year we raised more than $1,000, so it was pretty amazing. And I think year after year we continue to raise that, and we keep hitting that ceiling and keep setting new higher goals. But it's just an incredible service project, and it's amazing to kind of be part of that legacy, knowing that it's been going on for 50 plus years, and to really have a lot of our alumni who come back and are willing to donate. And it's a great opportunity to kind of practice like putting yourself out there. And we're all just standing around the seesaw and like we're just like inviting folks to come in. And I think it's like it's obviously a great like recruitment tool. People obviously hear about the organization, they remember us because it's the seesaw thing. We've had people who come back and say like, "Oh my gosh, I saw you guys last year. Like you're here again." So it's an amazing project, and I love that we have continued to do it. And it continues to be very meaningful for the different organizations we work with. So yeah, it's awesome though. I love it.
Yeah, and I think for those of us on, district level, international level,
hmm
those big signature projects in our home
hmm
clubs are some of,
hmm
the best opportunities to
hmm
really get involved with our home club. I know
Yes.
for my club at NC State, which
hmm
is also, I think we're about to hit our 65th anniversary, so
Wow.
we've we've been around there, and our signature project is the haunted house we do with our Boys and Girls Club of Raleigh, where we
Ooh.
set up a haunted house, dress up,
hmm
do the
Oh,
whole
that's so fun.
from the idea all the way through to costumes and scare actors.
hmm
And I
Oh,
think for
cool.
me, that was the one responsibility that,
hmm
I had taken on when I was club president. And then as
hmm
I stepped to the governor role, I was like, I still would love to be the organizer for this because it's just so fun,
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
and so I did that. And
hmm
I think it brings up a good point about, as district level international folks,
hmm
we sometimes are navigating the balance of our responsibility to our home
hmm
clubs while
Yeah.
also the specific responsibilities of our roles. And I think,
hmm
for some people, I think they gravitate towards one side of the spectrum of like,
hmm
oh, well, that's not even my job to do anything for the home club anymore. I
Right.
might not even really go to meetings, versus some who are
hmm
like, well, if I'm the governor or if I'm a trustee or vice president, international
hmm
president, whatever, I'm
hmm
going to do 110 million things for my home club on top
hmm
of the, thousand
Right.
things I'm trying to do. And I
hmm
think I've found that the right answer is somewhere in the middle, but I'd love to
Right.
get your
Of
take on it.
course. Yeah, of course. I think that's definitely such a important thing because like you said, like we can just get so caught up in the work that we're doing. And obviously by taking on more responsibility, it is hard to continue that. But I think one thing that really helps me, like sometimes when I'm like, oh, I like have a meeting right before a club meeting, or I have this other obligation when there's a service project going on for my club. I think just remembering that, the purpose and like understanding like our like we joined this organization ultimately to serve and volunteer. And so I think obviously there's a balance. Like you can't say yes to everything, and you never should have to say yes to everything. Like you always need to be taking care for yourself. But I think there is like such a importance in being at that local club level because I feel like it's hard for us as leaders to be able to do our jobs well if we don't know what our members are genuinely worried about or like what their big priorities are. Because I think that's a good way for us to kind of assess like okay, like we're putting on this resource or we're making this event and not being able to talk to your members to see like, hey, like, I went up to my members and was like, hey, like one of my international committees is putting together this membership rally. Like, is that something you guys would be interested in? Like, we're planning on having like an alumni panel, like we're planning on doing like breakout sessions. Would you guys be interested in that? and thankfully they all like said yes, like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. But if you're not meeting your members where they are, how are you going to really know what is valuable to them? And I think that needs to start for all of us at the local level within our own home clubs and really making sure that they're the best that they can be so that we can do our jobs as leaders in the best way. So that doesn't mean going to every event. I definitely have not been at every single one of my home club events, but being able to show up when we do have time for it and making sure that we don't just only do the stuff outside of that is so important because I don't think we can do our jobs the best that we can if we don't know what our local clubs are kind of going through and what are their some of strengths and ideas. Because honestly, that's also very like fulfilling for us to be able to, rely on a strong home club and being able to say like, oh yeah, like they're doing really well and here's how they're doing it. I think it's so important to be able to share from your own experience, and you won't know that if you don't go to those meetings or if you're not present. So I won't lie, like even this past year, like being able to do both shifts of the Teeter Totter Marathon was very challenging. I was also very sick, and it was like I think it was the weekend before Halloween. Like I was like, I need to be in my best health. Like, I have a lot of midterms coming up and everything, but um the club was needed some more volunteers and they really needed help, and the Kiwanis tailgate is quite far from my apartment. I think it was like a 30-minute walk, and it's during game day, so everybody's out and about. Like it's quite packed on campus, but they said they needed help, and even though I wasn't feeling the best, like I definitely could not. I was not on the seesaw because I was like feeling a little nauseous. But I knew that they needed some help, and I had the time. I just wasn't feeling the best, but I decided to go and show up, and I really got to connect with some of our brand new members and kind of hear about what they were liking about the club. Two of them were in key clubs, so I was like, "Oh yeah, like what do you guys think? Like the difference? Like what do you wish like Circle K could have been more?" And they're like, "It's amazing." Like so, I think that's just reaffirming to the work that we're doing and how we're able to help sustain all of our clubs. Whether it's at the district level or international level, by being able to have such a good connection to our own home club. So I definitely get it though. It is very hard to manage your time and kind of be able to prioritize different things, but I think if we all obviously prioritize our district and international leadership roles, part of that is prioritizing our home club. So just making time for that in whatever way that looks like is so important. But it is also understandable to take time for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, with our home clubs, it really is a place to kind of get the people on the ground's perspective on things that are
Mm-hmm.
going on. I know it can be easy to get removed from that when we're, meeting
Mm-hmm.
with other people on district level or international level
Oh
who
yeah.
are also familiar with the same things and we're familiar with the same
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right.
But it's still a different dynamic for a lot of our clubs, and every
Mm-hmm.
club is unique as well.
Right.
And of course, we also have sometimes the challenge that some of our clubs aren't aware of our district and international levels.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'd
Mm-hmm.
love if you could talk a little bit about, I'm sure at your own home club with an
Mm-hmm.
international vice president, they're very familiar
Mm-hmm.
with it. But
Mm-hmm.
with some of the other clubs you might end up interacting with here and there,
Mm-hmm.
how do
Yeah.
you, really try to push out our district and international level leadership in a way that seems
Mm-hmm.
meaningful and that kind of encourages clubs to connect with us?
Yeah, of course. So definitely within my home club, there are quite a few members that don't know like that this is my job, or they don't really know what it means. Like they don't know what international vice president is. Like our presidents do a good job of kind of talking about like, oh, here are the folks from our own club that are at the district level and at the international level and at all these different areas. So they definitely know of it. But definitely for clubs that don't know, I always like to highlight the fact that I was also just a general member 2 years ago, and I was encouraged by someone else to kind of pursue this district position and kind of go from there. So I would definitely highlight that I too was just a general member. Like, it comes from all of us. Like we all have that potential. And so really just highlighting the ways that I was able to like gain that confidence was through connecting with other clubs. And I honestly just love to share that like my biggest source of inspiration within CKI is being able to see all of our different clubs and how they operate. One thing that we're really trying to do this year is since Ohio is a relatively small state and we do have quite a few charter chapters pretty close by, like we're really trying to push like that inner club involvement so that our members are able to see, hey, this is more than just, our own club here and our own officer team and the fundraising that we're just doing on campus. Like I think the first thing is being able to show the general member that there's other students out there like us. And I think that starts by just being like, oh, we're gonna go visit this other club this weekend, or we're going to go to the district event where you'll meet students from all throughout the state and things like that. So I think that's one of the best ways I can kind of recommend is to to share like who we are is by showing people. You can only tell people so much. Like you don't really understand the power of we say 6,000 members in an organization. Okay, well, like what does that really mean in terms of our impact or in terms of the students or like, what is this really doing? Um, I think being able to see that in person, like I don't know if I mentioned, but with our Teeter Totter Marathon, the event or the football game was Ohio State versus Ohio University. Not to be confused. That's why we have the D in our name, so no one gets us confused. But basically, it was the football game between those two teams. So we invited the Ohio University Circle K Club to come up with us, come up to our campus and do the Teeter Totter Marathon with us. And thankfully they were able to come. And so some of their members got to see like, oh, there's Circle K members at OSU too. Like this is like so much more than just, our club, or it's so much more than, each of us and like the impact that we're making just in our campus. So those are the opportunities where we can really show people, we're so much more than this. And like obviously when I'm like, oh, like I get to serve as the vice president, people don't really understand what that means. So I think being able to invite them like, oh, my one of my committees is leading a social, like you should join. Here's the date, here's the time. And then they see like, oh, there's like 50 people on this Zoom call and they're all from different areas. They all are like, in their Zoom name, it has like a different university or a different district. So I think all of those things of being able to show people that it's so much more. And that's why I love going to conventions and conferences, because you can really just see like you look around the room and you're like, dang, all these people are doing service just like me. And we all come from different walks of life. We're all studying different things. We're all going to be like in such different places once we graduate. Like it's just so incredible that it's such a huge community. And I don't think you can really do that by just telling people. You really got to bring them in and show them. So yeah, I would say that's kind of how we share our whole organization with our individual members.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was well said. And speaking of graduation and studying
Hmm.
different things, I know you are
Hmm.
focused in business operations management and
Hmm.
global public health. And I'd
Hmm.
love for you to talk a little bit about that and how you've gotten informed and maybe even inspired from your time in the K family for that career.
Of course, of course. So initially, like I mentioned in the beginning, I went to a joint middle and high school, and it was like that because of the STEM school. So initially, I was planning on doing STEM. Like middle and high school, I was like, okay, like STEM's my jam. Like maybe something in IT, maybe engineering, maybe healthcare. And through that, I realized like, oh, this is a lot. Like this is too technical for me. So I quickly realized I do not want to do STEM. And so I was very passionate about healthcare. I was just a little nervous about that one-on-one interaction with the patient and like having so much responsibility within that. And then obviously the medical school is quite long and I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. So I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. I just didn't know what. And so through my Key Club, I did a lot of volunteering at my local children's hospital. And so because of that, I really got exposed to all the different areas of healthcare. And I quickly learned like there's so much need for like healthcare management. And so that's kind of where I decided, okay, I want to do something that kind of combines like my interest in business, but also is working in healthcare. And so initially, I started off at OSU as a double major in public health and operations management. And I quickly realized I would not graduate on time if I did both of those. Two separate bachelor's degrees. I was like, no, I don't have time for this. So I had to decide between the two, and I decided operations management would be kind of my major. And then I really love studying public health, but I also realized that I can kind of gain that experience through my involvements within service. And so I was able to continue to volunteer, in local healthcare initiatives. My governor's project last year was really focused on mental health, which is obviously such an important public health need and everything with that. So I realized that I would be able to kind of still learn about public health, maybe just not in the classroom, but through my other experiences within Circle K. And I also got to connect with a lot of Kiwanians who do work for some healthcare organizations. And that's where I kind of got that affirmation of, okay, this is a good place that I'm in and I really understand what I'm doing. So yeah, I really saw a passion for the like operations management side. I'm very much like a analytical, very we did like the strengths assessment in one of my leadership classes where it was about like identifying your strengths and identifying your purpose too, which is why I talk about it so much now because I'm like, wow, this really drives everything. Like if you don't really know why you're here, what you're doing, how are you supposed to know what your future looks like? And through that class, I really learned like, okay, my strengths are really focused on being productive and kind of really maximizing the most out of my time and my energy. And so that's why I realized operations management is all about that because it's about having a process and kind of finding the most efficient ways to do that. And really that is that, time is money. Like the more you're spending on, delivering this project or getting this healthcare resource out to people, the more money you're kind of racking up and holding those things and all of that stuff. So I just realized operations management was very much my passion. And that's kind of where we're at now with trying to find, what that looks like in a career. But, I've been able to kind of see different facets of that. I mentioned I volunteered in a hospital. This past summer, I interned at an insurance company, like a Medicaid company. So it was nice because it was a nonprofit too. So I could very much feel like a mission-driven organization, how that's so meaningful to and very fulfilling in terms of the work that you're doing. And then now I'm currently interning or interviewing for um, um, medical supplies kind of distributor type of thing. So it's kind of like the middle ground between those three things. But that's kind of where we're at now, and that's kind of what I want to do in the future. I think definitely because of the Kiwanis family, I've learned that working for a nonprofit or working in that space, where you're able to kind of directly meet with people is so important. And I think that's something maybe not in my first job right after graduation, but I definitely would love to continue working for or at least in the nonprofit space, because I think it just makes the work that you're feeling so much more fulfilling because you just feel like that impact is really, really there. And I feel like the work culture is so much centered on like, producing the best results for people. So yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at though in terms of career. It could change though. Still trying to I'm taking intro to ops right now and my final is on Tuesday, so hope we pass that, but we'll see how that goes.
No, I mean, and I completely understand. But
hmm
definitely, I think nonprofit is a sector that is
hmm
often, I think, maybe sometimes unexplored. I think something to do
hmm
with the phrase
Right.
nonprofit.
Right.
But I think it's a great opportunity to be explored, especially for a lot of our members that sometimes goes
hmm
overlooked. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, like you mentioned, things could change, but how do you see, your purpose in CKI connecting to your future career in a way that
Mhm.
it kind of helps you navigate say something like a nonprofit sector position, in a way
Mhm.
that maybe you wouldn't have had you not had this experience?
Yeah, of course. So definitely CKI is one of the things I talk about in every single interview. Like I'm always mentioning it. It's always at the top of my resume. Like it's something that I very much rely on in terms of my experience. And I actually had an interview just yesterday, and it was funny because the recruiter was telling me like, "Oh, I saw on your resume like you're involved with Kiwanis. Like I participated in like a kind of a golf tournament and the local Kiwanis club supports that, and they are just the sweetest people ever. Like, are you involved with that same group?" And I was like, well, yeah. It's like, yes, I actually serve as the international vice president. He was like, whoa, I didn't know it was like global. And I was like, yeah, but I'm just here from Ohio doing that. So I think it's like so cool just to first of all see like what people understand about Kiwanis, because a lot of times like people see the sign, they see the logo, but what does it really mean in terms of like the practice? And it's crazy to know for them to know that, oh, there's like student groups involved with this too. So I definitely talk about it all the time. And some of those soft skills that I really mention are related to just kind of leadership and kind of organization and keeping myself accountable, first of all, just because I always mention that it is a volunteering organization. And, at the surface level, that just means showing up for, different events or putting together kits and things like that. And so people don't really understand, like, oh, there's a lot of work that has to happen in order for those things to be supported. There's a lot of like making sure that membership dues are collected and making sure that grants are provided and things like that to make that happen. And so I think those are some of the skills I've definitely learned of just managing all of those different processes. And especially when I was governor and like, honestly being like a relatively young governor, I was starting my freshman year. Like I barely knew what college was like. Like how am I supposed to lead a whole district of all people who were relatively older than me? I definitely had to put myself out there and kind of be willing to ask questions and be curious, especially just because like there is so much that we can do within these positions, and sometimes it can just like we talked about earlier, like it can feel like oh we're just gonna do what we did last year and just do better, but honestly so much room for innovation and doing things better. And I've definitely seen that throughout this year's governor's class of you guys really just taking that initiative and being able to kind of put yourself out there. And then even just with the international level, like how can we continue to support that and also bring it and scale it to the global stage? I think that's kind of where the ideas of like the international membership social came out was we saw that a lot of trustees were kind of hosting these fun district events. Well, how do we make that for every member? Things like that I think were so important, and being able to kind of lead that change and kind of put that into practice is so awesome. And that's something I definitely talk about a lot is just having so much freedom within this position and being able to share, well, I was given a district of X number of members and these charters that wanted to happen, and here's what I did my entire term. And I love being able to talk about how um, the action behind that and how we were kind of we all are kind of given like some loose boundaries of terms of what we can do. And so being able to talk about, oh, this is like what I did with that, and here's how I took that, that idea and I ran with it and things like that. So yeah, I would say I definitely learned a lot, but definitely like being curious and also just holding myself accountable is something that I've definitely learned. And being able to manage my time, especially, people don't really understand like, oh, this is like a lot of work, we're on a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of meetings and things like that. So being able to manage your time and things like that is so important too. So those are definitely some of the skills I talk about. And just overall, just really being able to kind of express myself in this organization is so important because I really found like, I mean, in Key Club, I knew I was very passionate about mental health and things like that. But I think in Circle K, I was really able to take that and run and kind of make it my own thing with my governor's project and kind of help other clubs kind of do that too. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, switch gears here because I know we're almost
Mhm,
out of time.
mhm,
I do know that you are a big fan of Minions, and
mhm,
I wanted to give you an opportunity to place some Despicable Me Minions characters
mhm.
in committees if
Oh
they
my,
had
okay.
applied.
Oh, I like
'Cause
this.
I
Hmm.
know at the time that this goes out, we will have just welcomed a kind of second batch into our committees.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, let's just imagine for a second that we got some applications from some
Hmm.
different folks and where you'd place them.
Hmm. Yeah.
First up, we'll start with the minions themselves, the,
Hmm.
the main crew. Where do
Hmm.
you think they would fit in our international committees?
Oh, okay, okay. You guys should know I love minions. Like, I want to show you guys, but I have a little canvas painting right here that I did in like middle school paint of minions. So, and trust we have a lot. And I literally have a minion like on my desk over there, that I crocheted. But I would say, first of all, within the main three, I definitely think Bob has got to be on the membership committee. So Tyler, get ready because he's gonna have a lot of ideas. He's gonna have lots of good vision, lots of energy. So being able to contain that is gonna be so important. I think Kevin is such a organizer and such a logistical type of person. So I think he's got to go on our service program partner committee because I think he'll do some good work with either organizing a fundraiser for UNICEF or maybe organizing a webinar for TNC, the Nature Conservancy, our new partner. And let's see, I think Stuart, I don't know about Stewart. Loki, I feel like Stewart's gotta be on the awards committee because I don't know if you guys know who Stewart is, but he's the one who has like the little like confetti popper thing. If you've ever seen the GIF, like that's him. So I think he would be really good at kind of hyping people up, even though he's kind of a mellow type of minion. But I think he could do some good work there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course we also
Hmm.
have to place Gru,
Hmm.
the kind of the
Okay.
minion leader. So
Ooh. Hmm.
which committee would we place Gru on?
I think just given that Gru is a little bit of an older gentleman, I think he could do some good work with our Kiwanis Family Relations Committee. Just because I don't know if he would be a Kiwanian, I don't think so, but maybe he could be, and I think he would be able to help us see, okay, how can we connect with, this different generation, I guess. But yeah, I think Gru would have to go there.
Right, right. Perhaps you could bridge that gap a little bit. I think
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
great thought. And then last
Hmm.
up, Vector. Which committee would you place
Ooh,
Vector
I
on?
forgot about Vector. Oh my goodness, the first movie. Vector. Okay. I think convention committee because I think he would do a good job of kind of rallying everyone once we're together in Dallas. So I think he'd have to go there and just I think he just has such a great vision of, what he wants to do with his life. And I think that would be a good thing for him to kind of be leading that force of our convention committee.
Right, right. Absolutely.
Oh, I
Uh,
love this exercise.
yeah, I bet you
Hmm.
never imagined when you were running that you would have to place some
Mm-mm.
minions onto our committees, but here you are. You gotta expect the
Here it is.
unexpected.
You never know.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Before I let you
Hmm.
go, I ask all my
Hmm.
guests, what's the biggest diva moment that you have seen during your
Mm.
time in either CKI or any of our K family organizations? Something big
Yeah.
and bold that really stood out to you during your time in our organizations?
Okay, I think I have mine. So retiring from governor was one of the like most challenging times ever. So I'm going to talk about my decon and specifically my governor's banquet because what a stressful weekend that was. My spring semester was very challenging, and so leading up to decon was very, very challenging for me in terms of like getting everything done, getting all the scripts ready and things like that. I was obviously running around doing so many things. The weekend before, I was at a dance competition, so I didn't even have that kind of time. I was just running from that to school, and then showed up to on one of our campuses to run decon. And so I was literally staying up like literally till like 3 a.m. like writing scripts for the House of Delegates, like doing all this business. But the governor's banquet was finally my opportunity to just kind of relax and like just celebrate, our clubs. And it was funny because I was literally changing and like running late to my own banquet. Like it was supposed to start at like 6:30. You better believe I showed up at like 6:50. Like it was not a good look, but I was like, guys, don't start without me. Like, I'm here. But I would say my biggest diva moment was that banquet because I could finally just like relax from all the things that we had to do the night before. And being up there on stage, the governor typically poses with kind of the award recipients and things like that. So being able to kind of recognize and celebrate all the work that my clubs had done that year was so incredible. And I think a lot of times some of our great satisfaction comes from the awards that we're able to receive, but being able to be part of the selections committee and kind of decide, what are our clubs, what do we want to recognize our clubs for this year was so important to me. And so being able to kind of present that to them and kind of recognize all those numbers and tell them like, you guys did an amazing job, like, especially with some of the awards related to my governor's project or like in general, like our outstanding clubs and things like that, was so awesome. And so I think my biggest diva moment was just being able to see all of my clubs there and being able to recognize the incredible leaders within our district. And honestly, like I mentioned that mostly because it was just such a low stress time for me. Like obviously I was like running late. Like in Ohio, it was like this is our decons are relatively early, so it was like snowing, like it was icy. Like I almost slipped and fell like in my dress. Like it would have been bad, but we ended up making there. Like it was all good. We started, and finally I could just like, okay, I finally made it. Like I just got to get through this. But yeah, that was like a very stressful time leading up to it. But then once you were there, it was very nice to just be able to celebrate with everyone and kind of recognize all the work that we could do. So yeah, I would say that's my diva moment. It was a very, very, very good reminder of, why I'm in CKI and like all of the people that I've been able to meet throughout the organization, and especially be able to recognize them and kind of celebrate their work was so like validating for me to be able to lead that as governor. So yeah, I'd say that's my diva moment.
Oh, that is such a great diva moment. I definitely
Thank
can
you.
say being only a couple months away from
Oh
my
my
kind of
goodness, you're
outgoing
retired.
decon.
Yes.
It's like I can already tell it's gonna be bittersweet and it's probably will be
hmm
hectic too, but
Right.
I'm still looking forward to it, of course. But
Yes, it'll be
you know,
awesome.
thank you so much for sharing your diva moment, and thank you again for being on the podcast.
Of course.
It's
Yeah, thank you for
really
having me.
of course anytime. But I wish you the best of luck on your finals, and I
Thank
hope you have an amazing rest
you.
of the year and rest of your term.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Diva Checkpoint podcast with me, Tyler Rosado. For more episodes, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you've got something to say, we want you to be a guest on our show. Head over to bit.ly/CKI podcast for more information. Until next time, keep leading loud, CKI.